Who is your favorite superhero and why?
Am I allowed to say Neo from the Matrix?
I guess.
Yeah. I mean, because here's the thing, man. I definitely have watched quite a few superhero movies, and like especially in my youth, but I never got into superheroes. I'm not someone who got into all the Spider-Man and Batman and Superman. I love some of those movies, watch them, but I'm not into them. But I think that the most interesting character that struck a chord with me was Neo from the Matrix. The idea that this is not the real world, and it gets into all sorts of questions on free will and destiny and breaking free from the Matrix and seeing reality for what it is. It's got a futuristic sci-fi element to it, lots of existential questions. Neo from the Matrix. Not saying that I necessarily would want to be him, right? Keanu Reeves in the Matrix was just kind of this soft-spoken, like kind of a dull character. You know what I mean? Even though he was the one, he wasn't super animated or anything, but I just really resonate with that whole just the whole trip it took me down, right? The psychological mind fuck of it all. So
So, what I find to be interesting about what you just said is that when I think of Neo from the Matrix, that's more or less your style of game. That's what you're attempting to do. So with the Vortex, you're like, okay, so there is the emotional side, then there's the structured side, and you're trying to merge the two to create this like harmony, this fusion of like perfect game where there's a matrix that underpins everything, and you're trying to solve it to the best of your ability. But then that's basically Neo in the Matrix. The world is a computer simulation, and he's actually figured out how to hack the simulation and use it to his own benefit. So I'm not at all surprised to hear you say Neo based on everything you've told me about your system. That's quite interesting.
yeah, I'll say this though too. There's the other side of me too. When you hear me talk and stuff, maybe I sound very methodical and scientific and whatever, but I very much live my life in kind of an artistic way as well. I listen to lots of music, and I think through the lens of music a lot as well. I think every time I get my end of year Spotify report, I listen to more music than something like 97% of the world population. And that's not just me putting on Spotify to like rack up my numbers. That's like headphones in, volume cranked up, like active music listening. So I listen to a lot of music, and I fuse that artistic side of it as well. But I think that's kind of more or less what you said too. But anyway, no, that's an interesting observation. Who is your superhero?
Wolverine. I'll tell you why. Because number one, Wolverine ages really slowly. So he's hundreds of years old, but he looks like he's 35 or so. Like, I love that. Number two, Wolverine has a healing factor. So no matter what you do to him, you stab him in the neck, and before he could choke to death on his own blood, his body will heal the damage. Sick. Wolverine's healing factor gives him insane endurance because you know when you exercise, lactic acid builds up in your muscles. His body flushes out that lactic acid. So he could sprint from London to LA or from LA to Washington. So he can just keep going and keep going. He's got animal senses, so he can recognize people by smell. If you if he knew you, he would know your smell. If somebody was impersonating you perfectly, he would know it wasn't them by the smell. He's got really good night vision, things like that. Like I love Wolverine. The retractable claws that just come out his wrist. Like, yeah, that's me.